A new analysis by The Lancet estimates that had the US responded to the coronavirus simply in the way that most other Western nations had, we could have saved many, many lives. In fact, they think we could have averted about 40% of the total deaths from COVID-19 had we just kept our death rates corresponding with the rates in other high-income G7 countries. And of course, far more could have been saved if we had exceeded that as a country with the best healthcare in the world, one would think we could have. Now, they do fault Donald Trump, but not Donald Trump alone. In fact, they say the disturbing truth is that many of President Trump's policies do not represent a radical break with the past, but have merely accelerated the decades-long trend of lagging life expectancy that reflects deep and long-standing flaws in US economic, health, and social policy. So they talk about what Trump did, and more importantly, what he didn't do. But they also talk about what had been done in the years leading up to the pandemic, and even prior to Trump as well. But on Trump, they say, instead of galvanizing the US populace to fight the pandemic, President Trump publicly dismissed its threat, despite privately acknowledging it, discouraged action as infections spread, and his refusal to develop a national strategy worsened shortages of personal protective equipment and diagnostic tests. They also condemn his response, but emphasize that the country entered the pandemic with a degraded public health infrastructure. Between 2002 and 2019, US public health spending fell from 3.21% to 2.45%, approximately half the share of spending in Canada and the UK. There's a lot more in there, obviously, that we can discuss, but it is clear that had the US better prepared for this pre-Trump and especially during Trump, we could have saved potentially hundreds of thousands of lives.
Yeah, guys, in the Trump era and now past it, we argue over absurd things that there is no argument about. So did Trump react as well as he could to COVID? Don't be ridiculous. I mean, the guy was so stupid that in the middle of the pandemic, he suggested that maybe we should inject bleach into our bodies. I mean, come on, really? Like I'm supposed to debate this? So even after he himself got coronavirus, he came out and said, so I learned a lot about coronavirus now. That was near the end of your term. We were like 9-10 months in. So you didn't bother learning about coronavirus even though you're the president of the United States? And he says, maybe I'm immune now. What do you mean maybe, you moron? So did he do it? He discouraged masks. He didn't prepare properly. He didn't have the tests ready. So did he cost at least 40% more deaths? Obviously. The only reason why we're having a discussion over it is because one side of the political aisle in this country lies as a matter of course. It's not just Trump. It's all of his stupid Republican senator and congressman robots who are like, we will all lie now. Pretending there is no disease is just as good a way of treating it as actually treating it. And then we have to debate, is that true? No, bleach could, he was joking. Everybody saw with their own eyes he wasn't joking. But it could be true, Trump, everything. No, you morons. So look, nearly 500,000 Americans have died already from coronavirus. You do the math on that. That means about 200,000 more people died than was necessary. And guys, you could look at any chart. You could Google it right now. Look at any chart, any version of it. The US versus the rest of the world. My God, we're a runaway #1 for the worst in handling the disease of any country on the planet. Forget developing versus non-developing world. We were the least developed. We had the most cases and the most deaths because we had an absolute village idiot as president. So a couple of 100,000 people died, not just because of Trump, but because Republicans in mass drive us against science, against medicine, and in favor of stupidity.
Well, you're absolutely right, because first of all, in the elections, 2016 elections, people kept saying, I love him because he's an outsider. He's gonna get in there, he's gonna mix things up, clean the swamp. That was the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard in my entire. Who wants an outsider? This is the only job that people think they want an outsider for. You never go, I'm gonna get my eye surgery. I want a surgeon who's an outsider, who's never done this before. I really like to see how he would do with the eye surgery. And then we find out what happens when an outsider is caught in the middle of a situation he can't bob and weave his way out of like he had been for the past 4 years. And this was something where, I mean, the management was horrible. He brings in Dr. Atlas in the middle of it, who's another cuckoo who's saying, let's just go for herd immunity. Let's go for 3 million dead. I mean, there was so much goofiness and cuckoo-ness. I listened to a great podcast, The Daily, the New York Times podcast. They interviewed Dr. Fauci. And he said, what was it like under Trump? And he said, every day someone would call him up with an anecdotal story saying, have you tried, like you said, UV rays? Have you tried disinfectant? And the whole time I'm watching this, I'm going, where is he getting his ideas? Because we know he watches a lot of television. I thought maybe he was getting his ideas from infomercials. Like I was waiting for him to come out one week and be like, you really want to clean up the coronavirus? Try ShamWow. You just clean it and you throw it in the wash. Inject it. So it really was rookie time, rookie hour, as we know. And I'm so happy that this new administration is a science administration, and it already feels, I just feel, guys, I don't know about you guys, but the past month, I felt good to wake up and not have to like think about a bunch of fabricated drama from someone's tweets. Like we actually get to talk about real stuff. People go, oh, there's climate change. I'm like, yes, let's talk about it. There's a pandemic, let's talk about it. And as Cenk was just saying, these senators, there's a video of Ted Cruz saying, if Biden wins, the day after he wins, the coronavirus is gonna go away. Really, Ted Cruz, Harvard, Princeton? Like that just made me think of, I've lost total respect for Harvard and Princeton if this is your best, that this guy's talking like this. And last but not least, I'll leave you with this because John was saying that this study talked about how it's not just Trump, but it's been a systemic thing with our healthcare. I, to this day, do not understand for the life of me why we are so afraid of universal healthcare in this country. They've really done a good job of saying, you give universal healthcare, then the communists are gonna take over the socialism, and then we live in a capitalistic country. There is no way we're gonna end up like the former Soviet Union. If you wanna know how capitalistic we are, you know who shut us down for coronavirus? It wasn't the government, it was the NBA. They said stay home. You know who stopped Trump from continuing his attempted coup? It wasn't the government, it was Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Private enterprise runs this country. Let's give healthcare to people and not be number one on the worst coronavirus list.
Yeah, and I'll just add 2 quick things to that. One, on the outsider stuff, look, I think you can be an outsider who's intelligent and has experience in running things in different contexts. I'll give Andrew Yang as an example. So I disagree with some of the things that Andrew pushes for, but he's a smart guy. And so him as mayor of New York is really interesting. But if you pick an outsider who has no experience and is an idiot, right? Well, don't do that. That's nuts. And then we have to have this debate that goes on forever. But to Maz's even more important point about healthcare overall, guys, every article talks about as if like this is a debatable issue too. And in fact, they almost all come out on the side of Medicare for all is going to cost more. But it doesn't in any other country. It costs half as much in every country that's tried it. So to say like, oh, it's a big mystery and it probably will add to the deficit, it's just borderline lying. And it's done to make sure you don't get healthcare, so those private insurance guys and the drug company guys can make more money. And by the way, also spend a lot more money in advertising in media.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.